I'll call this meeting of the State Board of Elections to order. Is there an echo? Is it gone? Good. All right. I would request that non-participants mute their lines, and the secretary will call the roll.
Chairman Brink. Chairman Brink,
Present.
Vice Chair O'Bannon,
Here.
Ms. Chang. Here. Delegate Merrick's.
Here.
Secretary Alvis Long here.
We have a quorum of 5 live members. In addition to the members of the board today, we have Commissioner Beals from the department, as well as Joshua Leaf from the Office of the Attorney General participating in today's meeting. A note about public comment. At the conclusion of today's meeting, the board will go into closed session to receive the advice of counsel. Before we go into closed session, the board will receive public comment on items that are not on today's agenda. Without objection, members of the public will be heard for 3 minutes and are welcome to submit statements for the record. Our first order of business is approval of the minutes from our meeting of May 24, 2022. Do the members have any corrections to the minutes as presented? Secretary Alvis Long.
Yes, is there a motion to approve the minutes from the May 24 and June 21 meetings?
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the minutes from May 24 and June 21. Secretary Alvis Long, will you call the roll?
Yes. Chairman O'Bannon, excuse me, Chairman Brink,
Aye.
Vice Chair O'Bannon, Ms. Chang, Delegate Merrick's,
Aye.
and Secretary Alvis Long, aye.
The minutes are approved 5-0. Next order of business is the commissioner's report. Commissioner Beals?
Chairman Brink, Vice Chairman O'Bannon, and members of the board. As you know, we had a primary on June 21st. 5 of the 11 congressional districts in Virginia had primaries. 4 of those were Republican primaries, and 1 was a Democratic primary. Roughly 165,000 people voted in those 5 primaries. I would just like to thank our local registrars and our local officers of election who prepare and set up for every election, no matter how many people turn out to vote. As everyone knows, we have elections, multiple elections every year in Virginia, and it takes thousands of people to run an election. Each year we come to them and we ask them if they will sign up, and each year they put up their hand and say yes. And so I want to publicly thank our officers of election for their service to our community on June 21st. Now that the primary is over, our focus is going to be like a laser on redistricting and getting those remaining localities through the redistricting process. This is a partnership between ELECT and GIS departments of localities and registrars, and we are working to get them through this process and get voter notices out to voters so that they can know their new districts and perhaps possibly their new polling places prior to November. I did want to give you an update on our Cyber Navigator program. This is a program that we've been working on for a little while, but it really has just come to fruition this summer. It officially began in June. So this program partners college seniors and graduate students who are IT majors from 6 Virginia universities with local registrars to help them take a closer look at their election security posture. Students from 6 Virginia universities had to enroll in an election cybersecurity course this past spring in order to even be eligible to apply for this summer internship program. And then those students applied and 32 were chosen. They were chosen from UVA, Norfolk State, Virginia Tech, George Mason, VCU, and Old Dominion. And they will now work this summer as cyber navigators. There was a boot camp for them at UVA June 2nd and 3rd. And we had 17 local general registrars and their IT counterparts in the localities sign up to work with them for this inaugural year. So that included 1 large locality, 3 medium-sized, and 13 small localities. And why is that important? That's important because in a lot of our smaller localities in Virginia, they might just have 1 IT person for the entire locality. So to have somebody who will come in and just focus on the election security aspects for their general registrar is a huge benefit. As I said, the Cyber Navigators program, they partner with the registrar and their local IT staff, and they work on the individual IT needs of that locality. So some of the things they might be working on would be creating incident response plans, conducting risk assessments and vulnerability scans, developing acceptable use and shared credential policies, and assessing physical security. The results of these efforts will be presented to each local electoral board in the August-September timeframe so they can see what happened in their locality. And this locality or this program is unique in Virginia and potentially is a model for other states in that it brings together students who are interested in cybersecurity with local governments who are in need of their expertise. So we're just very grateful to UVA for their leading on this project and to our local registrars who stepped up to be part of this first year of the program. So with that, I'll turn it back over to you, Chairman Brink. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Beals. Do any of the members have any questions of the commissioner? Okay, at this point, I wanted to mention, as the members know, the board established an advisory work group consisting of stakeholders from various portions of the elections community and designated members. The Electoral Board Association has notified us that Wanda Taylor will be filling one of the positions on that board, and the Virginia Municipal League has notified us that Josette Bulova will be their representative on the advisory work group. With that, the next item on our agenda is certification of the results of the June 21, 2022 primaries that the commissioner referred to a moment ago. Mr. Saunders. So this is Republican primaries in the 2nd, 3rd, 6th, and 7th districts, and a Democratic primary in the 8th district, correct? Okay, do the members have any questions of Mr. Saunders? Does any member of the public wish to be heard on this item? All right. In that event, I'll entertain a motion that the board certify the results of the June 21, 2022 primary.
Mr. Chairman,
Dr. O'Bannon,
I move that your State Board of Elections vote to certify the results of the June 21, 2022 primaries as presented.
is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the board certify the results of the June 21 primaries. Will Secretary call the roll?
Yes. Chairman Brink,
Aye.
Vice Chair O'Bannon,
Aye.
Ms. Chang, Delegate Merrick,
Aye.
Secretary Alvis Long, aye.
The motion passes 5-0.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you,
Chairman.
Mr. Saunders. Next items of business are consideration of 2 revised absentee ballot application forms. Ms. Williams?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. My name is Zakia Williams, and I'm an Elections and Registration Services Specialist. I am presenting regarding amendments to the Virginia Absentee Ballot Application Form, SBE 701-703.1, and Virginia Permanent Absentee Voter Single Election Change Form, SBE 703.1C. The Department of Elections and a work group of general registrars collaborated to make revisions to the forms. We took into consideration concerns from the field in an attempt to make the form more understandable for our voters and other stakeholders. Most of the changes are language and reordering changes. The most notable changes for the Virginia Permanent Absentee Voter Single Election Change Form includes dropping the single election from the title, as well as added an option for the voters to remove themselves from the permanent absentee voting list. I would like to note that we found an error on the Virginia absentee ballot application form that you have before you. On the back, on the instructions and within the instructions, it is non-material information that we will correct after the meeting. At the top of the memo in your working papers, you will see a suggested motion from elect. And if you have any questions, please feel free to let me know. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. Could you identify the non-material change that you're suggesting?
Yes. So in the instructions, we reordered, on the form, we reordered the numberings to the form. And so in the instructions under the general information, it references the order from the old form. So we have to update those numbers.
Got it. Okay, thank you. Do the members have any questions of Ms. Williams on this form? Does any member of the public wish to be heard on this item? Very good. All right, in that event, I'll entertain a motion that the board approve the revised form SBE 701/703.1.
Mr. Chairman, I move that the board adopt the revisions to the Virginia absentee ballot application form and that the revised forms be effective for use immediately, including the item on the back.
All right, is there a second? All right, it's been moved and seconded that the board approve the revised form. Will the secretary call the roll?
Yes. Chairman Brink,
Aye.
Vice Chair O'Bannon, Ms. Chang, Delegate Merrick,
Aye.
Georgia Elvis Long, yes. Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. The next item of business is consideration of the revised Virginia permanent absentee ballot voter change form. Ms. Williams.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Oh, I had, did it. Yeah, so I'm doing the revisions for the Virginia permanent, no, I did it together. Yeah, I did it, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, you presented both of them at the
Yes.
same time? Then we've approved both of them at the
Okay.
same time? Your work here is done.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, she presented them. All right, I will accept a motion for approval of the revised Virginia permanent absentee ballot voter change form. Is there a second? It's been moved and seconded that the board approve the revised Virginia permanent absentee ballot voter change form. Secretary will call the roll.
Okay. Chairman Brink,
I vote aye.
Vice Chair O'Bannon, Ms. Chang, Delegate Merrick,
Aye.
Secretary Elvis Long, aye.
The motion passes 5-0. It's the heat. All right. The next item on our agenda is Henrico County's request for a split precinct waiver. Mr. Davenport.
Good afternoon, Chairman Brink and members of the State Board. Today, I'm presenting one split precinct waiver request from Henrico County. Along with this request, Henrico submitted supporting documents. Those included a copy of minutes from the Board of Supervisors meeting requesting the split, relevant GIS maps, and an email from Henrico Registrar Mark Coley requesting that Coakley requesting that the split waiver be granted. As you know from our last meeting, the State Board of Elections has the authority to grant a waiver to administer a split precinct under Code of Virginia 242307. This waiver in this case would address a split in the Shady Grove precinct between House of Delegates District 57 and 59 and Senate Districts 10 and 16. The bottom line is there are 43 voters at that precinct who are in the split 5910, the other part of the split, and 3,769 in the 5716. Legally, this seems appropriate. It's less than the 100 minimum that we would need to create a new precinct. However, the department does not make a specific recommendation. Instead, you'll see the format for the suggested motion at the top of your memo. And with that, I'm happy to take questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Davenport. Do the members have any comments or questions of Mr. Davenport? Does any member of the public wish to be heard on this item? In that event, I'll entertain a motion that the board approve Henrico County's request for a split precinct waiver.
Mr. Chairman, I move that the board approve the split precinct waiver from Henrico County Precinct 311.
Okay, is there a second? It's been moved and seconded that the board approve Henrico County's request. Will Secretary call the roll?
Yes. Chairman Brink,
Aye.
Vice Chair O'Bannon, Ms. Chang, Delegate Merrick's,
Aye.
Georgia Alves Long, aye.
The motion is approved 5-0. Thank you, Mr. Davenport.
Thank you.
Now, before we go into closed session, does any member of the public wish to be heard on an item not on today's agenda?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, could you identify yourself, please?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. My name is Thomas Cruz, and I'm here to speak about issues regarding Nottoway County. May I speak?
Certainly.
Thank you. Honorable members of the board, Mr. Chairman, and Madam Commissioner, thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. My name is Cruz, and I'm the chairman of the Nottoway County Democratic Committee. I've had to address your board at a prior meeting. I have once again come to address you this morning, or this afternoon rather, regarding issues in Nottoway County. I apologize for not being there with you in person, but my electoral board had a meeting this morning. First, if your board has not already been made aware, then I'm afraid that I have to make you aware that voting equipment from Nottoway County has been discovered in Sussex County after the termination of their registrar. Thankfully, the state police are currently doing an investigation, but how it ended up there is pretty obvious. Our former registrar in Nottoway County was employed there after her termination here in Nottoway. When I last addressed your board, I urged the investigation to turn its attention to what was taking place in Sussex County and to center that investigation on our former registrar. I'm now pleading with the State Board of Elections to assist the Nottoway County Electoral Board in obtaining all the documents and other equipment that still may be in the possession of our former registrar. She still has in her possession thousands of documents in her former official email account that used to be the office that was used by the office while she was still employed there, which to the best of my knowledge, she has refused to turn over to Nottoway County. There are literally thousands upon thousands of election documents that we no longer have access to in Nottoway County. And now that we have discovered missing equipment that she may have been involved in relocating, there may be additional equipment that she is in possession of as well. I'm pleading with the board to help Nottoway County obtain all the documents and equipment from its former registrar. Second, today I've called for the resignation of our current secretary of the electoral board, Tom Reynolds. We have in our possession evidence that he was actively coordinating and colluding with our former registrar while during his position on the electoral board. We know that he was in Sussex County, but he has yet to answer what he was doing there. We know that the former registrar was creating official documents for him and dropping them off at the restaurant that belongs to Diana Mitchell. That's the individual who has appeared before you numerous times to complain about the Nottoway County Electoral Board. We know that the former registrar was taking pictures of Varys and sending them to Secretary Tom Reynolds, and he did not report this activity. And all of that really just scratches the surface. I'm not here. I'm not. I don't believe that Secretary Reynolds will resign, but I am requesting that the investigation, as it moves forward, investigate the relationship between the Secretary and the former Registrar of Nottoway County. There's a potential pending lawsuit against Nottoway County from the former Registrar, and his actions at a minimum demonstrate a massive conflict of interest. And I thank you for allowing me to address you this afternoon.
Thank you, Mr. Cruz. Does any other member of the public wish to be heard on an item not on today's agenda?
Would Chairman Brinks?
Yes, would you identify yourself, please?
Yes, my name is Christopher Page, and I'm calling to kind of piggyback off what Mr. Cruz was just discussing, if I could speak.
Certainly.
All right, thank you. First of all, I want to apologize to the chairman. I think last time I was there, I accidentally said Madam Chairman, and I meant to say Madam Commissioner. So I want to take this opportunity to apologize to you, sir, and give you the respect that you deserve. But Mr. Chairman and distinguished board members, thank you for allowing me to speak. Mr. Reynolds covered a lot of what I wanted to say. I wanted to inform you that equipment from Nottoway County, at least 11 laptops, and a thumb drive titled 2017 election data was found in Sussex County after they voted to remove their registrar last month. It is, as the previous secretary of the board and who was involved in the vote to remove the registrar, I have no clue how this equipment would get there. Seems the only connection is that the registrar that used to work for us was hired in Sussex County. With our secretary going over there, it's a little more concerning as well. I know the state police has seized that equipment and doing an investigation, but I think it's something that this board should be looking into as well. I think that he is correct. The voter registrations office email that was always ran by that registrar, she has continuously refused to turn over access to that email. There's thousands of public documents in there that she used daily to create and emails, and just thousands upon thousands of public documents for how many ever years that she used it, that the citizens are access is denied to because we can't get to them. And so that is an issue as well. Secretary Reynolds, I sent over the screenshots to you guys Friday of the text messages between Secretary Reynolds and the previous registrar. In there are screenshots of Veris, which everybody knows when you log into Veris, it says do not screenshot it. You could be criminally prosecuted. They were sent from the previous registrar to the new secretary. The secretary does not have access to Veris, so it's very concerning. I think that you guys should be aware of that. On top of that, today at the Nottoway Electoral Board meeting, Secretary Reynolds refused to do his duty. He refused to go into closed session to handle the registrar's annual review, which is due by the end of this month, even though he put it on the agenda, and he asked the registrar questions about his accomplishments in advance. But when the vote came, he refused to participate in that. And as you know, that's required by state code to be done by the end of this month. So he's refused to do that duty. And I think the board should look into, there's something going on here, and look into it for us. And other than that, I appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Page. Is there any other member of the public who wishes to be heard on a non-agenda item today?
Yes, I would like to be heard.
Would you identify yourself, please?
Yes, my name is Ann Gregorian. Thank you for taking my comment. I came to you in May regarding driver privilege cards in relation to my work as an election official. I did send an email as I was instructed by yourself on the 24th of May. I never received a response, so I resubmitted the email. I wound up submitting 5 emails before I received a response from Ms. Lawless regarding, if you remember, my concern is there's only 4 IDs that are prohibited to present at the polls. They're out-of-state driver's license, which is an obvious visual, membership card from a private organization, obvious visual, a credit card displaying a photograph, which is an obvious visual, The fourth item is a driver privilege card, which is issued to non-citizen residents of Virginia. So my question was surrounding the driver's privilege card. Ms. Lawless did answer my question with a description that was a combination of code, DMV code, and website information. At the end of the email, however, she instructed that any other policy issues should not be directed to elect, and that I should resolve these issues with my registrar and request additional guidance from my registrar. However, it's my understanding, and I did contact my registrar, he cannot interpret or make policy. So I'm before the board today to request that somehow the board get a standardized policy that identifies basically the three elements, which I've had to contact various DMV, I've had to contact my law enforcement officer. These driver privilege cards, which look exactly like a driver's license, and you don't want to challenge somebody as an election official unduly for any reason. They basically have three things. They have an identifier in the corner that federal restrictions apply. They have a restriction code of a number 9 on the front. Those can also be on citizen driver's license. It's not indicative of a driver's privilege card. The only thing that can discern a driver's privilege card is on the back is a 9, and it's decoded as a limited duration driver's license. So I would appreciate a standardized policy directive to educate and to allow us to do our job as to what these driver's privilege cards look like. I don't feel it should be up to the discretion of the individual registrars to describe what they look like. Most times I've had people ask their registrar to see if anybody else knew. I've had answers from they're a different color, to they say driver privilege card on the front of them, to there's a disclaimer on the back. None of that is accurate. So I'm asking the board to standardize a policy to protect both the election officials at the polls and to protect the voter so that everybody is clear what is and is not acceptable at the polls. And I thank you very much.
Thank you. Are there any other individuals who wish to be heard on an item not on today's agenda? All right, in that event, I'll entertain a motion for the board to go into closed session.
Mr. Chairman,
Dr. O'Bannon,
pursuant to Virginia Code Section 2.23711A7, I move the board go into closed session for the purpose of discussing pending and threatened litigation. In accordance with Section 2.23712F, Susan Beals, Commissioner of Elections, and Joshua Leaf of the Office of the Attorney General will attend the closed section. It was, as stated by our Attorney General Office representative, the intern working with him will be a part of the closed session because their presence will reasonably aid the board in its consideration of the subject of the meeting.
all right, is there a second? It's been moved and seconded that the board go into closed session. Will Secretary call the roll?
Chairman O'Brien.
I vote aye.
Chairman Brink.
I still vote aye.
Vice Chair O'Bannon. Ms. Chang. Delegate Merrick. Secretary Alvis Long, aye.
The motion passes 5-0, and we will go into closed session. Thank you, everybody.
Mr. Chairman, I move to reconvene the meeting in open session and take a roll call vote certifying that to the best of each member's knowledge, only such public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements under this chapter and only such public business matters as were identified in the motion by which the closed meeting was convened were heard or discussed by the State Board of Elections.
It's been moved. Is there a second for this motion? It's been moved and seconded that the board reconvene the meeting in open session. Will Secretary call the roll?
Yes. Chairman Brink.
Aye.
Vice Chair O'Bannon. Ms. Chang. Delegate Merrick.
Aye.
Secretary Alvis Long, aye.
The motion is approved 5-0. Is there any other business to come before the board?
Mr. Chairman, I have a motion.
Dr. O'Bannon,
Mr. Chairman, I ask that the board approve an authorization to the Attorney General of Virginia to take action as appropriate to enforce Section 24.2, 106 with regard to the appointment of a recently filled vacancy on the electoral board in the city of Suffolk, Virginia.
it's been moved that the board authorize the Attorney General to take the captioned action. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any additional discussion? If not, the secretary will call the roll.
Yes. Chairman Brink,
I vote aye.
Vice Chair O'Bannon, Ms. Chang, Delegate Merrick,
Aye.
Secretary Elvis Long, aye.
Motion passes 5-0. Is there any other business to come before the board? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Is there a second? Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting is adjourned.